see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, guys, any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Coast to Coast. I am your host, Pags. I've got Bo with me. McLovin will be in shortly. How you doing today, Bo?
Doing good, my man. How about you?
I went to the Flyers game last night, so
Nice.
yesterday was the first day of kind of like the new season, even though it's not official yet. They still have to make sure that the 49ers don't send in any type of because I think you have 3 days to be able to debate or protest the win or
some sort of
loss and
appeal?
stuff. Yeah, so not that I think that they're going to do anything like that. I think they realize they lost fair and square, and this is not like the 2020 election where nobody,
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's going to be any riots happening in Los Angeles at the headquarters of the NFL saying, anything like that. But that being said, like I said, today, yesterday was like the first day of the 2024 NFL season, and Chicago, you are on the clock. So,
So I guess on that note, what do you think? You think they go after a quarterback, or you think they stick with Fields?
Interesting that you say that. I that's going to be part of our first segment because we're going to ask some of the biggest questions that each franchise has, and I'm sure that is the biggest question coming from Chicago's side. Hi, Mom. Good to see you. Yeah, appreciate that you always checking in. She's one of our one of the ones that are always listening.
Absolutely.
And she's definitely not my mom. She's Bo's mom.
That's
So,
true.
just so that we were all on that same page.
She's the show mom.
So first off, CBS, it is reported that this telecast was the most watched telecast ever with 123.4 million viewers.
For the Super Bowl?
For the Super Bowl. Now, that includes CBS, Paramount Plus, Nickelodeon, CBS Sports, Univision, and the NFL Plus.
Okay.
So,
100
everybody.
million, no joke.
123 million. So, there was the biggest one before that was 115.1 million.
Okay.
Actually, and it's a total of 202.4 million viewers watched all or part of the Chiefs. So that's what it is. It's 202.4 million viewers in total.
Wow.
Watched to see if Taylor Swift was going to be shown more than 7 times.
I mean, that was probably a solid 100 million of them. Yeah.
Well, I think I kind of agree with that. It's like normally it's about 125, 130 million people.
Yep.
So that extra 70 million were probably, 20 somethings, from like 16 to 20 something.
Yep.
And they were all saying, there's Taylor. There's Taylor. Look at how cute she looks.
It's a weird way to watch a sport, but yes, I agree. That's probably what was going down. Maybe I'm just not enamored by celebrities at all, but I just couldn't sit there for 3 hours and be like, I wonder if I'm going to see her for a half a second. Like, I don't know. It's just seems weird to me, but hey, to each their own.
You know what I didn't like? I didn't mind Taylor, but
Sure.
that ice, whatever her is, the one with the doing with the upside down cross and stuff like that. Like, really, that's what you went
Oh,
there for?
the
Yeah,
what was that? Ice Spice? Is that what it is?
ice spice or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
I don't.
It's like
I'm not
I
familiar
mean,
with it.
obviously, what I say doesn't matter, so I don't care.
Of course.
But they should never ever show her again. I don't know who she's married to, but that bitch has got to go. Get the frig off my television set
Yeah.
and get erased from my life. You know what I mean? I don't
Sure.
ever want to see you. I can imagine that there were a lot of people who felt that way. Making
Yeah.
devil symbols on the free. Listen, I ain't a religious guy either, so I don't care.
Yeah.
But don't be. You're literally trying to piss people off. She saw that the camera was on her and started doing stuff. Like,
Yeah.
really? That is a definitely see you next Tuesday move. So that's
Fair
what you
enough.
want to look like. That's what you are.
Yeah.
That's how I look at you. So
Yeah.
I'm
That's
not.
fair. That's fair. I mean, people will use that platform however they can, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, so it made me wish that they showed somebody else who was doing the opposite of her. Like, because now
Sure.
it's like you got to balance it out. Like, why just show her?
Right.
And
You
it's
got you needed to have Tebow on the other side.
yeah, just doing it, being like, hey, yeah, and just kneeling after every touchdown.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting to see that in general, and it's like, all right, whatever. Um, that being said, because the season is now over,
Yeah.
it's the combine is getting ready to get kicked off here shortly, and there's going to be 321 prospects that were
Oh,
invited
that's a
to the
big field.
combine. That is a big field. Uh, Interesting to me. That's
They
that's
add
that's a
like an
lot.
extra day to it or something.
Say again.
They add an extra day to it or something.
Uh, I don't know that answer. Let's find out, shall we? Uh, no, I don't want to see that. It's February 26th through March 4th. So
Oh,
that's a full 7 days.
yeah.
Usually it's 5.
Yeah. So they added a couple days to it. All right. I mean, you would have to with that many people.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I got to imagine some of these people are going to go. Like, why would Caleb Williams go? I figured he shouldn't go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you kind of need, especially because of how their season kind of fell apart a little bit at the end there. You almost need like a good pro day to remind everybody that you're good.
Right. All right.
I mean, so I could see him go. I could see him like not doing parts of it, but I could see him throwing, something like that. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he doesn't run or do, because you see that sometimes when they go to the combine and they'll do like just portions of it.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but here's the list of quarterbacks, and it's actually not as big a list as I would thought. Uh, Jaden Daniels from
Yep.
LSU, Sam Hartman from Notre Dame, Devin Leary from Kentucky, Drake May from North Carolina, who, surprisingly enough, I don't remember North Carolina having such a great season, but he's listed pretty high up on the board.
What, Drake May?
Drake
Yeah.
May.
Yeah. It's because he throws a really good ball. So he is actually going to be a sought after prospect. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it wasn't that the team was amazing, but he played incredibly well.
Okay. I just because I know that he's a top, he's listed in the top 20
Yeah.
picks. So number one, he's a number one draft pick from what I hear. JJ McCarthy from Michigan,
Yep.
Joe Mixon from Tennessee, Bo Nix from Oregon, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, Michael Pratt from Tulane, Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. Again, yeah,
Like he's
not
going to need a good combine because I'm not familiar with who that is.
exactly. Austin Reed from Western Kentucky.
Okay.
Now, again, that's probably somebody who is just, trying to become Mr. Irrelevant this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I maybe I'm talking improper. Maybe
I mean, I'm. That's another one where I didn't really watch I can't watch all the college games, right? So
I've never even heard of Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
So
Eh,
they play.
So
They
I'm not
must be the Wednesday games.
right. Probably. Yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with his game, but I mean, any of those kind of guys, they're looking to have a good combine, good pro day, make an impact. And yeah, and then you're hoping to be Mr. Irrelevant, right? Because then at least you're getting your hat in the ring.
Right. And South Carolina, is that still who was the coach? That was the coach of Washington for a little while. Spurrier? Steve Spurrier?
Oh,
Is he still the coach down there?
that I don't know.
I mean, he
Yeah, I
could
don't.
be about 120 years old at this point, but he
Yeah,
might
for
still be the
real.
coach down there. Um, keeping going, Caden Slovis from BYU, Jordan Travis from Florida State, and of
Okay.
course Caleb Williams from USC.
Yeah.
So, running backs are a lot more running backs than that. So I'm not going to necessarily go over all of them. The wide receivers, yeah, I got to imagine this is another one of these situations where I don't know that I would go. Um, Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio
Sure.
State. Don't go. I wouldn't go if I was you.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on if he wants to record his 40.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't know that I'd want to.
Yeah,
Yeah, just because, again, you are listed as of right now going fourth in the draft.
sure.
Are you going to move yourself up? You could only
No,
move back if somebody goes crazy and they start going quarterback nuts.
sure,
But they're
sure.
not going to go quarterback nuts in Arizona, which means that they
You
were
wouldn't think
slating
so.
to take you.
Yeah. No, I
So
mean, you definitely wouldn't think so. So yeah, I mean, you're a top 5 pick for sure. So yeah,
and there's a couple of names on here that are interesting to me that I feel like I'm a big fan of second and third generation players.
yeah,
So, uh, when I see a name like in the running backs, there's a couple of names that may or may not be second generation, but there are definitely one that stands out to me just because he was an Eagle at one point, and that is. I guess that can't even be the same. No, that's not the same either. So I saw the name Thrash, and I'm like, oh, that's probably him, but no, that's not him. That can't be. There's no chance of that.
Well, I mean,
So
to save that part of the segment, Marvin Harrison Jr. is one.
he is definitely one. He is definitely one with Philadelphia ties as well. So, um, and there's a bunch of different tight ends.
Yep.
Offensive lineman is probably the crux. The offensive and defensive linemen are a bunch of their linebackers, not a ton. Defensive backs, also big amount. So, and then specialists, there's a couple of kickers and punters, a total of 6.
Okay.
4 kickers, 2 punters.
All right. Well,
So
Belichick doesn't have a job, so I mean, they're not going to go early in the draft.
there we go.
I like
And look
this
at this. There we go. That's a great stat.
Absolutely.
12,000 followers and go. So you could see us on the big screen on our Roku channel. Go to the Northeast Streaming Sports Professionals, or Northeast Streaming Professional Sports. We're all over the place. You could
You know
watch
it.
us on the big screen. So awesome. 12,000. And that's all because of you guys. So we really do appreciate that. So, anyways, yeah, like I said, 321 is a lot of names. There's a lot of names there, and
Yeah.
I wish them all luck. I don't imagine everybody's going to go. Like I
Where
said, if I
where is
was,
the combine this year?
isn't
I,
it always in Indianapolis? Yeah,
oh, you know what? I think you're
Indianapolis.
right. That's right.
So it's always there.
That's right.
Uh,
I forgot that doesn't move.
yeah, that's actually they were talking about moving it, but I don't know that that's actually going to work. Um, and like I said, I did mention it. Oh. Zimmer did not leave Dallas. He is the new defensive coordinator.
I mean,
They
you had
just,
to think that was going to come together.
yeah, I thought so too.
I mean,
It was
they
just
met with him like 4 times. At some point, you just got to pull the trigger.
probably about money, And in other just relatable news, Mitch Trubisky was dropped. He's got to go hold a clipboard somewhere else this year.
Yep. Someone will
I'm
pick him
sure.
up, though. Someone will
Huh?
pick him up. He
Oh,
plays just
absolutely.
well enough to hang around.
Well, he's a good backup quarterback.
Exactly. That's what I mean. He plays just well enough to hang around the league. Like he'll be that, you know, 15, 16-year vet that basically is always a backup.
That will have about 4 games that he will star. He'll fill in for somebody and he will star, and
Yep.
then he'll get another starting job, fail miserably, and then go back to being a backup again.
I think him getting starting jobs, the ship has sailed on that. I think everybody knows at this point that it's like, okay, he's going to come in, he's going to have a great couple of games because nobody has tape on him, and then he's going to go right back to being Mitch Trubisky.
Well, that's very, very possible. We will see.
Because everybody loves a backup the first couple games, right? Because nobody prepped for him.
Well, especially if you have a quarterback that's got question marks in the beginning, to begin
Exactly.
with. So ultimately it's, I mean, Indianapolis could be one of those spots. I mean, I don't know if, I guess Minshew performed well enough, but he didn't make him to the playoffs. So,
Yeah. I mean, Minshew played well. And then, of course, they're going to get AR back, right? So I think they're fine as far as quarterbacks are concerned.
well, that's what I'm thinking. Minshew was only on a 1-year deal, I thought. So ultimately,
Was it
he
only?
may move on because he did play well enough. Could he have a job where he could compete for a starting job?
I mean, possibly, especially if they snatched him over to like Atlanta,
That was the first team that came to my mind.
right? Like he could
Possibly
compete there.
even Tampa.
I could see that. I could see
Yep.
that would actually be hilarious. I would watch that because
That
Baker and Minshew are very similar in the way that they can either come and ball out or throw a bunch of picks. Um, that would be a fun competition to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And even that whole division, really, as I think about that whole division, even New Orleans, are you sold on what, Carr did? I wouldn't be if I was them.
I'm not sold on. I mean, again, I don't know how Allen kept his job as coach. I mean, talk about underperforming with the talent that they had. Um, so I like can Carr get you somewhere? Absolutely. Are the pieces on that team that can get you somewhere? For sure. The coaching of that team is bad. Of all the guys that got fired, him and Eberflus are the two that somehow didn't get fired, and you're like, wait, what?
I feel like some owners just prefer to ride it out some. It's just that there is. It's funny. I'm gonna bring up Gary V. How often do you hear about Gary V. On sports talk radio? But I'm gonna bring him up, even though he's a Jets fan. Uh, he, I was listening to him. I maybe it was on Instagram or something like that, and he was posed a question. Actually, no, it was on one of his lives, and he was posed a question of how do you, like when you hire somebody, how is it that that you actually have the right fit? And he goes, you don't. You don't.
Sure.
He said, the one thing that you have to learn about hiring people is that you have to be humble and learn how to fire quickly.
Yeah.
And that he mentioned, he's like, I brought in somebody who was going to be the general manager of my business. And he interviewed great, 4 interviews, 4 interviews, all went great, hired him, offered him a very substantial package. Day one, I fired him.
Yeah.
Just realized that once I actually worked with him, that we weren't going to align. End of story. And all of that work to get into there, you hire slow, you fire fast. That's what I've heard
100%.
all along.
100%.
Some owners don't believe in that. And that poses bad things for a franchise when that's the case. So
Absolutely. I mean, I get letting someone marinate in a way of, maybe they didn't have the pieces they needed, right? Like maybe they weren't all quite gelling together. I can see being like, okay, let me run this back one more time, make sure that this isn't just they couldn't all get on the same page as quickly as we would have liked, or is it this is just a problem? Whereas in this scenario, like you had all the pieces to win that division. Like on paper, when you looked at that division, the rosters against each other, there's no reason the Saints didn't win that division.
right. But
They didn't.
check. They didn't win. They did not win the division, and that could have been coaching. So
Yeah.
there we go. I appreciate it, Joseph. Thank you very much for checking in. My Uber driver.
That's awesome.
I definitely get Uber drivers all the time that know the Philly sports guy. I give them my card and they start to follow me. So I appreciate it, Joe. Thank you very much. And Joe, just give me a quick. Where were you from? Because I get Uber drivers everywhere. Something tells me he might even be from Seattle.
Oh yeah,
He might be.
that's kind of cool.
Although I think I remember using a lot of Lyft in Seattle. For some reason, Lyft is cheaper than Uber.
It kind of goes back and forth here.
Long neck. That doesn't ring a bell to me. I have no idea where that is. But that's perfect. Awesome. So, but anyways, thank you for checking in, Joseph. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, one of the things that I was looking at today, and as I'm looking at different news stories. Oh, there we go. All right, he's there. He's a Philly guy. All right, perfect. Because I do use Uber around here too. Because if I'm going to go enjoy a cocktail, I'm not driving.
No, 100%.
So, there he goes. That's it. That's what I do. I give my card to people, and then they come and follow. So I appreciate that he did that. So, anyways, we're going to talk now that the Super Bowl's over and we're getting ready for the 2024 season. Every team has got a burning question on what they need. What's their biggest question moving forward into this season? And we're going to delve into this. We're going to hit as many teams as we can in the top part of the hour and wait for Jay to show up. And then maybe we'll ask him a couple, and then we'll go further and start talking about a couple of things that I mentioned yesterday. That like I said, they were going to have 8 international games starting next year, and then I ultimately think that it's going to be 16 international games, and every team is going to wind up having to go away at one point or another.
Yeah, I mean, that would.
I think that's coming. I think that's absolutely coming. You're going to see the second bye occur that 18th week, and then you're going to see the Super Bowl move back 1 week so that it is actually on President's Day and that everybody gets the day off. That is absolutely going to occur. The NFL has been working diligently, and they have to take baby steps to get there, but they are absolutely going to get there. But we're going to start seeing, that's why they were talking about having sites for the for the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship, because ultimately they don't want to go up to Green Bay in February or Chicago in February.
Yeah.
That is way too cold.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like being rewarded for being having the best record means something.
I agree, but that's why they are considering doing that, because was somebody going to die of frostbite at some point? That's what will occur. I'm surprised. It was interesting. The guys that were those both freezing games in Buffalo and in Kansas City, and the guys without their shirts on, they were fine.
Yeah.
But a couple people did get hyperthermia.
Yeah.
So just not any of the guys that took their clothes off. It amazing to me, but
for sure.
But let's get started. In what is every team's biggest question, at least according to Daniel Valente. Not sure who he writes for, but according to Daniel, he's the one that wrote this article. We're going to find out what is the Arizona, like everybody's biggest question, starting with the Arizona Cardinals, which is in your division.
Yep.
And it says the biggest question is, will they make a huge move? Because ultimately, it's right now slated that they are going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. unless somebody moves up and takes him third or second or first. But I can't see Washington trading back unless it goes trading back to number 5 or 6,
Yeah.
because one of those teams want to do it because they are desperate for a quarterback too.
Yeah.
Chicago probably has an opportunity to do that, but I feel that anybody who's going to move up into that number 1 spot has got to get a quarterback. They're not going to take a wide receiver.
If you're going to give up the capital to go to number 1, you're getting a quarterback. You're definitely not going to risk it on a receiver.
Right. So I really believe, and even if you're doing that in the number 3 position, and what is that? The Patriots?
I believe you're right. Yeah.
So it's because it's Chicago, Washington, New England, and then Arizona, I
Yeah,
think is
believe
how that goes. Ultimately, I can't see them doing it. So I guess you you have your quarterback. You're stuck with him for at least 2 more years because of the cap hit on
Yeah,
Kyler
he'd be
Murray.
far too expensive to move on from.
And I got to imagine that you really wish you kept in that clause saying that he had to watch the film. Everybody made a joke about it, and then he didn't watch the film. So
Yeah.
and that's kind of ridiculous to me that public pressure is what caused them to remove that. But
Oh, see, I thought it was pressure from Kyler's camp.
I thought it was public pressure. Like, hey, this is ridiculous. And, that, of course, Kyler's camp said something about it too. Like, really, you're going to put this clause in here? He had already signed the contract.
Yeah.
So it was already there. Oh, we're going to remove it after the fact? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Now it seems weird. And I mean, if you are not watching tape, to the point where they're saying, hey, you don't watch tape. I don't really feel bad about that being in there. Be like, hey, it's part of the position, right? You got to lead us. You got to actually know what's happening. So, I mean, you can only survive on talent for so long.
Well, I hear that. And like you said, he's not, I don't even think he's the best of quarterbacks.
No,
So,
I mean, he's athletic, right? So he can bail himself out of situations. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's the best quarterback. Honestly, he's just kind of he's kind of like Russell Wilson was early in his career, but just doesn't have as good a team around him.
okay. You know what, Joe? I will address this right here and right now just because it makes sense. I mean, I've read a number of different stories about this, and I have a little bit of experience with Andy Reid. Like I said, we weren't the best of friends or anything like that, but I got to meet him a few times while he was in Philadelphia, back early in his career and later in his career. There are certain players that he has favorites. He definitely has favorites, and Kelsey is one of his favorites. So Kelsey gets a little bit of extra. He's allowed to take certain liberties. And in that circumstance, I can imagine that Kelsey apologized later. And they didn't show that on TV. Like he was fired up that he should have been in that play. Had he been in on that play, he would have created that block. And ultimately they'd still have the ball. So it was in that type of moment that was done. That being said, he took a liberty with the coach that not everybody is going to be able to do. And they showed it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Had they lost that game, I guess it could have gone back to saying, hey, that actually had a moment. But I don't believe that. I don't think that that would have been the case. It's just the way that they would have lost would have probably played that. And I think it showed a fire from Kelsey that you almost want in your teammates. That being said, it looked bad. It did look bad. And he should not have done it. And I got to imagine, like I said, that there was a, even when he did it, you could tell that Travis surprised himself that he almost knocked him over. Um, so you
Yeah.
could tell, like right there, so, oh, whoa, 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 like he tried to catch him, and
Yeah.
then he's just like, and then he walked away, and just you could tell he was just overly fired up.
Yep. Well,
And
and
that's how
you could
that
tell
was.
that it took Andy Reid off guard completely, right? I mean,
We don't. We'll
because he
never
dropped
know
him.
if it was a fine. That they may actually dock him something. That I wouldn't be surprised if there is a certain situation that occurs. They may never say it, talk about it, because they just won the Super Bowl. They don't want that to be the factor
Yeah.
that says all of this. And listen, let's face it. He has had a very unique year. He
Yes.
is all of a sudden in the limelight much, much more than he's ever been in his entire life. And
No doubt.
ultimately, that's the reason why they even bother showing it. I mean, like I said, they may have said something about it had he not been Travis Kelsey. Had it been anybody else that went and did that, and ultimately, like I said, he was overly fired up. He went over there as coach. He startled his coach,
Yep.
and then like he realized what he did and then walked away, just like, come on, like we got to get this together. It's like it was a way of trying to fire up his team and try to do whatever, and it just looked bad. It looked bad. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fine that actually gets levied.
I'm sure there will
Like,
be. And I mean, realistically, if it wasn't Kelsey, it wouldn't have been on camera at all, right?
right,
Like that would have been the 8th or 9th camera angle that might have picked up a part of it, and that's it.
right. But there is people watching Kelsey all the time, all the time. It's like, hey, when something good happens, you're going to show Kelsey, you're going to show Taylor. That's what happened. And
Yep.
every time there was a good play, you showed Kelsey if he was on the sideline, and then you showed Taylor. It's almost like they could have blown kisses to each other during
Pretty
that time. So I that's what I really have to say about that. I don't think it's as big a deal. I think that like I said, it was a, a, a fired up moment. It Andy Reid's going on and moving on from that play. He didn't move on from that play right away. He startled him. Andy Reid has gone straight out and said, "Hey, yeah, no, he's fine. He was fired up at that moment, and my balance was a little off." So,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
he came up from the side, like he didn't see him coming. I mean, you know, that's going to catch you off guard no matter who you are.
right. So I think that there will be something that comes down from that, but that won't make anywhere near the news. Like they're gonna that's an in-house situation right there, where he's going to probably, once everything calms down and they get the dust settles from this, Andy Reid's going to call him up and he's going to be like, "Hey, yo, there, douchebag," you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know, I would like an apology there, dumbass.
pretty much, pretty much.
And I think that's how that ends. So ultimately, it's not going to be a really big deal. All right, let's go. Let's keep moving on. No question. Number 2 franchise, because they're going to go in alphabetical order here. The Atlanta Falcons. What do you
Okay.
think there? I'm going to say, I'm going to ask you if you have an idea on what their biggest question is in the offseason.
Well, I mean, for them, it's got to be a quarterback. I mean,
Ding, 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 ding. You are right. You are correct.
yeah, I
Will
mean,
they find their quarterback?
like it's their biggest hole because they have pieces. They have a defense that's competent, right? I mean, it's not a lead or anything, but it's good. And they have some pieces that their new coach will probably figure out how to use. And, you know,
Yeah, like hold on. You mean like maybe Bijan?
right? Like
Playing
maybe
him
sometimes you should use him every game,
right
not just
every game.
not
And
just
you know
every
what
other.
else you got? You've got a fantastic tight end over there.
Absolutely.
Pitts is amazing tight end.
Yep.
That maybe you should have both of them play really well. If you had the proper quarterback, and somebody who actually knows how to call defense every once in a while,
Yeah.
could they be? Could they possibly rival? I mean, they don't have the receivers that San Francisco's got. Obviously,
No.
Ayuk is a great receiver. Debo Samuel is a great receiver. So they don't have all those pieces in place. But they got a good tight end and they got a good running back.
Well, and they have cap space, so they could actually make a play for Ayuk that San Fran may not be able to keep.
Maybe.
So,
So it'll be interesting. Michael Evans, same situation. He
I
would.
was going to say that was the other option. They could go after a guy like that, or if they wanted to drop some draft capital, they might even be able to go and target a guy like DK.
There you go. That would actually probably change things tremendously for
Yeah.
them. So, all right, moving on. The Baltimore Ravens. This is a little bit of a tougher one to think who would be their question, so to speak. Like what would be their toughest question to answer in this offseason?
So for me, I would think that they would want to go after a receiver because they had receivers on 1-year deals, not with not their first round pick, obviously, but it is a major piece in this offseason. They're going to have to find out because you had guys like OBJ that are just a 1-year deal and they're not going to be able to bring those guys back. They don't have the cap space for it. So they're going to have to go after a receiver. And
Are you cheating over there? Are you cheating?
no,
Because
is that
that's
what
what
he
it
has?
is. Which pending free agents will they resign? Yeah, and that's OBJ, Patrick Queen, Kevin
Yep.
Zietler, Jadeveon Clowney. He should be gone anyways. Justin Matabuke and Geno Stone.
Okay.
They're free agents. How many will they be able to retain?
Man, maybe two of them. Maybe two of them. Probably don't want to drop your number in the comments there, though.
Hey, listen, no, if he wants to get people to call him up for
Well, then I
rides,
guess Uber, right? So, yeah.
I appreciate it, Joseph. Thank you. I am going to write that down just in case because I'm always going to the stadiums. It's the ride home that's the pain in the ass part.
For sure. Because most of them
So-
are taken.
exactly. Yeah. Plus, I like to wait for traffic to be end because I don't like those surcharges that they charge.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I agree. The free agents is going to be the big deal, and you could say OBJ did well enough, but now that he's dating a Kardashian, you figure that's going to just be a big problem. That's why you're going to continue to lose. So
He's dating
no
a
more.
Kardashian now.
He is Kim
That career
Kardashian.
is over. That career
Kim
is over.
Kardashian. So yeah, I don't know that you re-sign him. He may have to go somewhere else.
I mean, I didn't think they were going to re-sign him anyway. He's more or less a splash player. He's not really a workhorse at this point in his career. He's someone that you're going to target 3 to 5 times, and that's about it, right? Like he is more of a decoy than he is an actual target. But he's going to come up with 2 or 3 great catches during a game that are impactful.
I mean, obviously Flowers was hurt, so he got more play this year when Flowers was out. But ultimately, I think with Flowers back, you're going to see him be the number 1 guy. They really should get a really good number 2 who's not the big name, who's not the diva style wide receiver. And ultimately, I'd let almost every one of those names go. Maybe keep Patrick Queen. Yeah, that's the one guy that I would consider maybe holding.
Yep.
All right. Next team on the list, the Buffalo Bills. What do you think the biggest burning question for their offseason is?
I mean, I'd like to see them get a running back that they actually used. They could also go with some O line. I think they're going to lose some of that, but I think a running back would help that out. Maybe make it so that Josh Allen doesn't have to play hero ball every time he touches it. Would probably be awesome.
So this specifically, he says, what does the future hold for Von Miller and Stephon Diggs?
Sure.
That Miller was, Von had some situations occur, so he was not thinking about football in the forefront of his mind. And Stephon Diggs, you know, Stephon Diggs is,
A problem. I
yeah,
mean,
he's a diva. He's a
so
diva.
the problem with Diggs is he is great for the first year or two wherever he is. But we've watched this movie before when he was with the Vikings, and he basically worked himself off that roster. And I think he's doing the same thing here. But I think they have him for one more year, so they probably use him. But yeah, I mean, he has become more of a problem each year.
Well, and
And
I
there
think
you
it's
go.
because yep, that's what he says. But I think he's a competitor, and he is good. He is
No
good.
doubt.
So, now I can't answer if he's a locker room cancer, but you know,
Yeah, I don't know.
he
Not in
did
the
work
locker
his
room.
way out
All
of.
we can report on is what we see on camera, and that's always skewed by whoever's pointing the cameras.
Exactly. So, again, I know that he likes to, you know, he is very competitive, and he is good. He is a good wide receiver. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I know that uh, him and his brother like to bap a little too much. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Trayvon Diggs is like, oh yeah, well, So my thought is, you know, he'll be fine. I think he just wants to get further in the playoffs. So I'm not sure if he's a cancer in the locker room or not, but he may be. He may be, and if that's the case, Josh Allen needs to do something about that. Really, you know, because
Yeah.
it's not like Diggs is a big guy. He's just got a big mouth.
Yeah.
Here we go. So next question is for the Carolina Panthers.
Just throw a dart at the wall. They need everything.
So this guy, this guy says that the biggest question for the Carolina Panthers, the largest that looms largest, is can Dave Canales save Bryce Young?
I mean, are they going to give him an offensive line so he's not running for his life the whole time? They're going to give him targets to throw to since they got rid of all of them to go get Bryce Young? They're going to give him a defense that is better than it is. I mean, there's so many places to go there, and they don't have a lot of cap, and they don't have any draft capital. Like that is got to be the least appealing job, and the only piece that you have on that team that you're like, okay, we have that piece is Bryce Young, and you don't even know if he's good because he spends his entire day getting murdered behind that line.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I mean, there's just they need an offensive line. Are you able to get an offensive line that quickly? I don't think so. I think that you are stuck a little bit. You're like, okay, you're going to have to uh, do something in free agency, and you're going to have to do something in the draft. You almost, like I said, you have to invest your second and third round pick in big guys. In fact, you might as well do every one of your picks as offensive and defensive linemen. If I was that guy, if I was the person, the GM running that show, you don't have a first round pick. So then you means you got to start backing people up and backing them up. So that means I would start getting offensive and defensive linemen and cornerbacks. Spending that's what my draft consists of. Offensive line, defensive line, cornerbacks in that order.
Yep. And see if you can
And
get a solid late round tight end so he has an outlet pass.
just grab the second tight end from Iowa. You know what
Pretty
I
much.
mean? And That's what you would have to do. Or big wide receivers. You
Yeah,
know, either or. But I would almost agree that they should take a page out of the San Francisco playbook and go back to a fullback and get a fullback
sure,
almost. That
absolutely.
would be somebody who can actually block in the backfield and could just give a little bit of extra protection. It's almost as if it would be worth it for them to go into like a wishbone formation
Yeah, no, I
where
could
you
see that.
have that
Yeah,
you dumb it down that much and give that guy some protection so that maybe he could use his legs, maybe he could see an opening, maybe he'd be able to get to read number two.
yep. Nope. Drag
That's
out the old Madden 95. Let's get some of these offset eyes and
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So I mean, there's so much that's going wrong over there, but
yep.
yeah, the wing tee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's old school there, where you have the whole three running backs in the
exactly.
backfield, two halfbacks and a fullback. You got
Absolutely.
all
There's no
right,
question what you're doing, but man, you got a lot of bodies moving.
exactly. Next one on the list, Chicago Bears.
Man, that's a tough one.
What's their question? You should be able to
So,
knock this one out of the park. I feel like you're gonna get the question.
I mean, obviously the question is Fields any good? We don't know that yet because he hasn't had an offensive line. So I feel like you got to probably trade back and get an offensive line. Figure out if the guy that you have in house is that guy. Um, you know, because really they're going to go one of two ways. They're either going to do that, shore up the offensive line, or they're going to get rid of Fields.
And there it is. That's the question. What's the biggest question? What happens with Justin Fields?
Yep.
Do they trade him? Yeah. And I guess we're going to find out in the very beginning. Like obviously they're on the clock now.
Yeah,
So if somebody is willing to give them 3 first-round picks, which why not? Why
sure.
wouldn't you do that? You know what I mean? I would give them 3 first-round picks. Uh, then you're going to keep Fields. If not, you know, you're going to maybe take Caleb Williams and move on. And then once you draft Caleb Williams, where is Fields actually go? Like, and not go, but like, what type of draft pick are you going to get for him?
You're going to
You
get a
almost going to trade him beforehand.
you're going to get a 3 probably at best, right? Because at this point we still don't know if he can play, right? I mean, the yards that he got mostly came with next to no air yards, right? So he was throwing inside the 10, a lot of things to the flats, like bubble screens, stuff like that. I mean, he didn't press the field all that much during the season. So, I mean, and any quarterback can throw to the flat. You and I could throw to the flat, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of pressure yet because it's soon as the ball's snapped. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I think a 3 is probably at best. It's probably going to be like a 4 with an escalator, right? It's going to be. We'll give you a 4 if he does well. It could become a 3. And then there will probably be, something the following year, like a 5 or a 6 or something, right? Like there'd be a little bit of a package, but it's not going to be anything great because we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, and what Dustin's saying here, I think that's way too much.
Oh, there's no
Way
way
too
you give up a
much.
first rounder for him.
No way.
And,
No
and the
way.
big reason why you don't give up a first rounder for him is no matter where he lands, you have to give him a contract.
Right.
So, I mean, he's going to have his last year, and then there's the 5th year option. So, I mean, you got to get him a contract immediately, and it's still not going to be cheap, even though you don't know what he is. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you had a first round pick that was worth getting a guy, you probably just go get a guy.
I didn't hear that, Dustin. I really didn't. I mean, yeah, people talk obviously, but I didn't hear anything like that whatsoever. Again, that
Yeah, I
they
haven't
were
seen
willing
that
to
from
give up.
anything official, that's for sure. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
they
some
may
of the
have.
rumor mills, but
Yeah, they
um,
said maybe they would do that, but I'll be honest with you. I feel that there's no need for you to give them a first round because if they're going to go quarterback, why would you at all? That means they're going to get stuck with both quarterbacks.
yeah.
So,
Well, that's why I say a 3 is probably at best.
I
'Cause there's
like the 3 with the escalator clause. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it's I got 3. Actually, maybe if you wanted to go crazy, I would give them a second round pick. If I was really, really hot on him, like
okay,
he's talking about with Atlanta, I'd give him a
sure,
second round pick in this draft.
okay,
I would give him a third round pick in the 2025 draft with the escalator.
okay.
If you make it to the playoffs, it goes to a second round. If he makes it to the Super Bowl, it becomes a first round pick. And that's how I would do that. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, I could get into something like that if you. I mean, you'd have to really believe in the guy because again, you're gonna have to pay him immediately. So it's not like you get to enjoy that learning process. Sub Jay?
and there's
Oh,
somebody
I'm
that we
cool.
all believe in. Jay, right there, coming in hot. First off, Jay, we're talking about. I'll tell you what we are talking about. We're talking about everybody's biggest question, every franchise's biggest question going into this offseason. But first and foremost, we have to mention how bad is Zimmer going to suck in Dallas?
First off, I just want to say, Bo, I bet you can get into a lot of things. Secondly, I mean, you might be privy to information I'm not privy to because I've been busy all morning long. Did something happen that I'm not aware of? Did they eventually hire Zimmer?
They hired him, yes,
Yep.
right after our
Because when I
show.
went to bed last night, it was still,
Questions? Yeah.
yeah.
It's reported that he's hired as of 20 hours ago.
All right. So the biggest question from my mind would be probably the same thing that a lot of people out in Minnesota are thinking is, Zimmer became toxic towards the end of his tenure out at Minnesota to the point where it had been said that he was telling, Kirk Cousins to do certain things. Like he was holding back Kirk Cousins. I don't know. There's a lot of toxicity around Zimmer that I understand he was with the Cowboys in the initial beginning. We didn't get a Super Bowl out of it. I don't know if our defense was any better because of it. There's a lot of negativity around the Zimmer name, and especially with Minnesota, there's a lot of negativity about the way he exited out of Minnesota. So I'm very leery as to what's going to happen and what he's going to bring under Mike McCarthy, the Dallas Cowboys. Do I think he's going to make us worse? No. Do I think he'll make us better? No. Do I think that the best I can hope for is status freaking quo? Yes. My only thing is, Mike, I only ask this of you. When we go into the postseason, don't play 10 yards off the damn quarterback. Bring the game to them and don't play timid because I feel like Dan Quinn played timid. Don't play timid. Bring the game to them and let them be the ones to adjust on offense, not us on defense.
I know I'll be bringing popcorn because I'm going to watch this dumpster.
You're going to be like,
100%.
And if you're at Buffalo Wild Wings, they'll follow up with that.
Yeah. Yep. I'll send you the picture with the beer. Be like, ah.
And I'll send you back about 500 crying emojis.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Pat's will be over there like, damn, Kellen Moore.
Yep.
And listen, I
wonder if when the Kellen Moore effect takes a hold, if there will be a meme that was made off the playoff pags when he's just over there.
This is probably true.
But you know the look I'm talking about. I want to see a playoff version of that.
Yeah, I agree with this statement.
100%.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what worried me about Rex is I feel like, when Rex was in New York, he had no problems telling you what he thought, this, that, and the other. And I don't know how that was going to play into Mike McCarthy. And I think Zimmer just wants to get back into coaching. I think he didn't like probably the way he exited.
It's still going to be a weird dynamic.
Oh, it's going to be weird. The whole damn thing's going to be weird. The whole damn thing. And that's why I don't, it's not going to be, I'm going to call it right now. And I hate to say it because I love my team. I love my team to death, but I'm also a realistic individual. And I don't see
that happen.
Now, it's always for me. You know that. Come on, you know I'm realistic about my team. As much as I love my team, I just see another year of just waiting for this to blow up in their faces, and hopefully Mike will be out. The question for me is, when Mike is on the door, who we bringing in at that point? That really is going to be the question.
Oh no, you're elevating Zimmer.
I don't think so. I mean, well, you know what? I say
for entertainment value. So. You are bringing Zimmer up.
You know what? And if that happens, I'm just going to be like, you know what? Bring on Stephen Jones. How long has Jerry got left on Earth?
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, you know what? Maybe I am a Texans fan.
No, you know what? That's the thing, though. You know, that really is the thing. You know, look, Bo, you've heard it a million times. You cannot control the way in which your team operates. You're still a fan no matter what. Sure. I can't control. And maybe it was the original. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pags. You were on the team, or you were on the show with the Dallas Cowboy superfan guy, and I think he's the one that said it on your show. I can't control what my team does, but it's not going to take away from me being a fan of my team. No, I think that's how he was coming across. And then
that's exactly correct.
And that's what we have to do as fans. You know, we live and die by it.
For sure. I mean,
that
at the end of the
day,
day,
is a very true statement right there.
And if Coach Prime comes in, okay, let's see what he does.
You know, that would be. I don't know that it would work, but it would
But I'm willing to take a chance.
It would get Jerry all the cameras he wants.
Oh God. Oh, it would be so hyped up and media. It'd be crazy. But then again, when it goes south, that's just going to give Stephen A. even that much more crap to talk about the Cowboys. Stephen A. will be all over that like right on rice paper. Let me tell you, baby. And, you know, and that's all that's going to do. If it blows up, it's just going to give Stephen A. probably about another 5 or 6 more years added on to his contract with content. So,
I mean, similar for Skip, right? Because he's just that ultimate Cowboys homer that
and you're right.
I can't stand him either. I cannot stand him at all. Not even a
little. I can't stand either one of them, to be honest with you. I'm not a Stephen A. and I'm not a Skip. I like to go somewhere in the middle of all that. But
Colin Cowherd.
you know who I like, honestly? I like Wilbon. Michael Wilbon.
Michael Wilbon's okay. I'm just trying to say, the more down the road in the middle of the two of those guys, I'm kind of that's kind of where I fit myself into.
Yeah,
is it Michael Wilbon? Is he the one that does that?
And Kornheiser, Wilbon and Kornheiser.
No. I thought you meant the actual the guy who calls the games.
Michael Wilbon. He's the black guy with the bald head. Him and Kornheiser.
Yeah, I was thinking the other black guy with the bald head. So it's not like
that though. Like I kind of go down more that road, honestly, than the other two.
Understood. Well, listen, hey, we're just about at the top of the hour here. This is a good time to segue and take our break. We'll come back here. We'll ask some more questions about the franchises coming up here. Yes, Mike Tirico. I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's take our break right now, and then we will be back for the second hour of Coast to Coast in just a few moments.
I hope they got my.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, from Brooklyn.
Hey, isn't he?
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something.
I finished my homework.
bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And we are back with the second hour of Coast to Coast. All three of us are here. All three of us all believe that Mike Zimmer is going to suck with the Cowboys and that franchise is going to fail miserably. So as we keep moving forward, because the Dallas Cowboys are coming up on our list to find out what their biggest question is in the offseason, we are at right now with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm going to hold off on my quarterbacks thing for the next time, for tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow rather than today, because I like these questions here.
May I say just one comment?
No.
All three of us definitely are. All three of us. See how I did that? I raised my hand, so as I want to make sure I don't over talk anybody. I'm learning to be more professional here. All three of us definitely are definitely in what Pags just said. But I also would like to say, and Bo, I hope I'm not over speaking you, that 2/3 of us think that Kellen Moore's going to suck for the Eagles.
I'm not sure which one is the one that thinks he's going to be good.
That's what I was wondering. Who thought he was going to be good?
Yeah, who's the 1/3?
I didn't want to speak for Philip because it was his team. I wanted to give him the option to say, "Yeah, Jay, you're right," or "Yeah, Jay, you're wrong."
I am absolutely going to hold off and not say anything until I actually see. I want to be able to see what's going on. I have spent too much time. I've spent too much time talking to Cowboys fans, and they've been too very critical of Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
So
and you haven't watched
that
games that feature Kellen Moore. Have you not done your homework?
Well, I mean, the thing is that Chargers offense did move the ball and put points on the board.
Really, how many did they put? Because last time I checked, they didn't make the playoffs. So did they put it?
Yeah,
of course, but they also were hurt. Yeah, they also got hurt. You know, so their wide receiver got hurt.
I hate that with the Chargers because that's always, if you want to know if you can be successful or not, and if you're not sure if you can be successful, just go to the Chargers. And if you suck, you can always blame the injuries and go somewhere else.
The thing is you lose your franchise quarterback. I don't care how good of a coach you are, you're not going to be great. Right.
Okay. So, but let me ask you this. But let me ask you one question. If you're a coordinator and you're looking for a job, do you not see that San Diego would be beneficial? Watch this. If they suck, you blame injuries. If they're great, you say I did it despite injuries. Do you not see that there's an out there no matter what?
So let me finish what I was trying to say there. Is that offense was putting up almost 400 yards a game, mostly in the air. And we're putting up on average about 28 points. That wins a lot of games in the National Football League.
Except when you're in San Diego.
Where their defense is giving up 38 points.
I know.
You have the worst
I'm sorry,
defense.
that was just me being petty.
I mean, when you have Staley actively trying to sabotage his own defense, yeah, you're not going to win. But, I mean, the offense played well enough to win. So if you're looking at the tape of the offense, I get taking a flyer on him because bringing a new head coach and everything, he's not going to keep his job. That's just not generally how coaching staffs work. So he was going to become available anyway. So, yeah, I mean, you take a flyer on him. Why not?
So basically what we're saying is Philadelphia is the litmus test if he's good or not good. And Pags, if he's not good, how long do you think they give Kellen Moore before they pull the plug?
2 years.
No, I'll be honest with you. If he's not good, that whole coaching regime is going to be gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if they're bad, like if they're out and out bad, yeah, it'd be one and done. But like if he's okay and they get in the playoffs, maybe it's a wild card or something, he gets a second year.
Well, and ultimately, I still think that even after everything's said and done, that Washington and New York are both not going to be able to do enough to be able to get the number one seed in the East. You know, and I'm just saying to win the division. I'm not talking about the number one seed in the conference. Just saying to win the division. It's going to be between Dallas and Philadelphia again.
Sure.
And ultimately, and the fact that we have gone 20 years without the same team winning it twice is going to happen again. I think that the Eagles will win the division next year. I think there's going to be a big
resurgence. I'm not going to go
resurgence.
against that because you're right. That has been the pattern, right? I mean, it's been the pattern.
Right.
The only thing that kind of worries me for Philly is still the issues within that locker room. I still feel like there's issues there. And if they resolve that, which I'm sure they will over the offseason, I'm sure there'll be meetings, there'll be get-togethers, there'll be barbecues, they'll figure it out. And then hopefully, you're going to know within that first 2 games if Philly's gotten their act together.
Right. Yeah. Actually, that first game in Brazil, because that's going to be a big one. That's going to be a big one.
True. Yeah.
So, but anyways, going back to the teams and their biggest questions today. We are now at Cincinnati. We're in Cincinnati for the Bengals. And what do you think their biggest question is going into this offseason?
Well, for me, it's got to be number one, the health of Joe Burrow and how is he looking. After the health of Joe Burrow and how he's looking, how he's progressing in his recovery, mine would be then, well, what got him there in the first place? The offensive line. So what do we need to do with this offensive line to improve and give Joe Burrow a little bit more protection to keep him from getting injured, or at least try to limit him from getting injured? Because look, I think you got a great running back, you got a good defense, you got great wide receivers. For me, the one thing now is, can I protect my franchise guy and keep him upright? And that's got to be that offensive line. So
that's a good question. That's a good question for them, but it's not the biggest question, at least not by this reporter. What are your thoughts there? Well,
yeah, I mean, for me, it's got to be defense, because their defense, I mean, and you could look at numerous places on this defense because they were able to put up points, but people were able to score on them pretty easily. The other question is that running back, he signed a 1-year deal, didn't he?
Mixon?
Yeah. I thought he just signed a 1-year deal. So if that's the case, then they're going to have to look at a running back as well.
No, actually, so he's actually due a roster bonus. That's the question that they're asking here specifically. Which skill position stars won't return? They don't talk about the offensive line. They don't talk about the defense, both of which are both acceptable things to talk about for the Cincinnati Bengals. But they are T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd are scheduled to be free agents. Joe Mixon is due a $3 million roster bonus on March 16th. So if he's here on March 16th, he's going to get $3 million. I don't know what their cap thing is, but I got to imagine they have a tight cap if that's what this guy's question is. You know, that which skill positions won't return. T. Higgins, however, if he becomes available because he's a free agent, Tyler Boyd, also very good receiver. If one of those goes to Atlanta,
yeah,
that's again, we keep thinking Atlanta is the spot where anybody goes. I don't know that I believe Arthur Blank is even smart enough to know stuff.
Now, wait a minute. I will tell you one thing about Arthur Blank. I have worked for his company. I am very familiar with Arthur Blank and his story and the way he has done things. And one thing I will tell you is, do not underestimate that man's intelligence. Because if you knew the Arthur Blank story of Home Depot and how Home Depot came about, you'd probably reconsider that statement quite a bit.
No doubt in my mind. Hey, listen,
quite a bit.
You got to, if you're a billionaire, you have done a lot of things right to get to where you are.
Oh, absolutely.
Football is not one of them.
Well, but I will say this: the one thing I like about Arthur unlike Jerry, and I love I love my Cowboys, but the one thing I love about Arthur is at least Arthur's willing to have a GM and he's willing to have a coach, and maybe he needs to revamp that side of it. But
right, and
but
he
I will
seems like a
say
very
this, but
nice
I will
guy.
say this,
Seems
I
like a
think,
great guy.
yeah. No, I think, like I said, I think the guy's smart. Arthur Smith, initially on paper, he looked pretty good. He didn't turn out to be that good. I think they made some good decisions in the draft. I think they have a ways to go. Quarterback clearly should be their number one, right?
Sure.
But
Absolutely. So next team on the list, the Cleveland Browns. Bo, we'll start with you this time. What do you think is the biggest question in the organization of the Cleveland Browns?
It has to be Deshaun. Like, that's got to be the question. Now, that doesn't impact the draft so much, but that has to be the question on it. Can he be that guy? Because you owe him all this money, so there's nothing you can do, right? Like, this is the first year, the biggest piece of the contract. So you're stuck with that. The rest of the team is actually pretty good. So, you might get him an extra, receiver, right, to try and shore that up. But the biggest question for me is, was that one game that Deshaun got hurt in an aberration, or is he returning to form?
And that's a question I don't think is going to get answered off of last year's production, because I think he was still kind of left right on that. I think this is the first full year. I think this is the first full year you can say, okay, let's see what we got in this guy. Out of all the crap, and let's be honest, the Cleveland wasn't exactly the smartest team giving him all that damn much money, but I guess that's what they felt they had to do to get this guy over there, and resurrect their team. Of course, Sean has had just a myriad of, whether it be injuries or rust, because God knows he sat forever and couldn't play. There's a lot of things that have hampered Deshaun down to a certain point. And I'm not saying Deshaun's the guy, because I know packaging. I'm not saying Deshaun's the guy. I'm just saying this is the first year you're either going to say he is or he isn't. And if he isn't,
well,
then
I'm saying that he's. The only reason why I'm shaking my head is because you take away all his massages, and all of a sudden he's just an average quarterback. So maybe
he really average, because obviously Cleveland went after him for a reason before all that happened. No, seriously. Cleveland's not investing that kind of money if this guy wasn't doing something prior to the incident, right?
And listen, I don't know, as somebody said on his team, Amari Cooper, how do you follow somebody into battle who oils up his booty hole?
And again, hey, look, if you want to talk about the stigma of what happened as to why he can't be great in the league or that or the other, well, then so be it. But I don't think Amari Cooper, I think he was just saying that out of whatever. I don't think that really holds a lot of weight. It doesn't.
So Cooper likes
teach their own. He's Amari Cooper, he's an athlete, and he can say things, right? But any Joe Schmuckatelli says that, we're just looking at it as, okay, that's just making fun of somebody. But there's no legitimate weight behind it.
So, all right. So let me ask you this question, because this person, this writer actually writes, it's not Deshaun Watson is the biggest question, because you're stuck with Deshaun Watson either way. You're stuck with him.
You are.
Will Kevin Stefanski or Ken Dorsey be the one that calls the plays?
Okay, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I haven't heard of any riffs. I haven't heard of any riffs between the two. I'm still saying I think Ken Dorsey calls the plays. Unless it comes out, and from Stefanski saying it differently, I still think it's Dorsey.
Yeah.
I think it should be Dorsey, but it may not be.
Yeah. No, it should be Dorsey, but it's funny. I'm kind of leaning towards Stefanski, really.
So that's the biggest question. That is a very big question.
Yeah.
Well, I just know when McCarthy did it, it wasn't like we guessed. Like, he came out and said, I'm calling the plays, and it was what it was. So I got to imagine it's going to be the same way there. I think Stefanski's going to call it. Wouldn't he just come out and just say it? Or is it just...
I don't know. That's just their off-season question. So we will find out the answer to this question come September of next year.
Yep.
But the next team on the list is the Dallas Cowboys. And what would be their biggest question, you know, according to this writer, but like I want to hear what you guys have to say first.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll just
go.
say.
I'll be short.
No, go
I'll
ahead,
be
Bo. I'm
short because
sorry.
you're going to be long-winded. I know it.
No, actually, I really wasn't going to.
I'm going to go with the running back position.
An a-hole.
The running back position for me is a real question because Pollard, his contract is up. I don't know that they re-sign him. They got some stuff to figure out there.
No, absolutely, and I wasn't going to be long-winded at all. I think it's a two-parter. And it's very short. One is yes. What are they going to do? And I'm not going to keep it limited to just Pollard. I think we talked about this recently with Pags in terms about the $19 million cap and what are they going to have to do to get up underneath that and who's going to get cut and who's not going to get cut. So I think their number one issue with the Cowboys is the cap and what they do with it and how they are able to maintain the team that they have and be sustainable at the level at which they were. Number one. Number two is play calling. They got to get this damn play calling under control. And Dan Zimmer really was, or not Dan Zimmer, now I'm combining names. Dan Quinn, I'm sorry, I'm combining names here. Dan Quinn clearly did not call that game. Now we got Mike Zimmer in. And what's the effect of Mike Zimmer going to be on this team? And how are they going to call it? So I got play calling and cap as the two biggest improvements the Cowboys got to work on.
And I think that, according to this writer, you guys are both kind of in the mix there because the question is, how does this team get over the hump? Just how do they do it? And it's going to take some unique capology and some players because they don't have it and they don't have the money. So you're going to have to get a little lucky here.
Yep,
you're right.
Just a little lucky.
Yeah, I agree.
Next franchise on the list, the Broncos from Denver. Let's ride.
Man, there's so much.
What do you think is their number one burning question?
Oh, it's the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Are they moving on from Russ or are they bringing him back? Because all they've been doing is jumping in and out, getting ready to play double dutch and haven't pulled the trigger. Like we don't know what it is they got going on, but the quarterback position obviously is going to dictate what they do from there. So it's got to be the QB.
Yeah, I really think, moving on from the Legion of Doom and the things that, in my opinion, really brought the Super Bowl to Seattle much more than what Russ Wilson was. And I'm not trying to take away from Russ, but let's be honest, Seattle had a lot of really good things in place that brought that Super Bowl much more than just Russ Wilson. I think this is the litmus test for how good is Russell Wilson really? Like, where does he really fit in terms of how good is he really? And Denver was a litmus test for that. And if you can't do something great with the Sean Payton that brought over what's-his-face from San Diego, Breeze, over to New Orleans and revamped his career and made him as a 5'10" underperforming guy into the greatest quarterback that got a Super Bowl and Katrina, if you can't do that same thing, if you have that kind of guy and you can't do nothing with it, it tells you who you are. It tells you who you are. And so, again, I think the biggest coordinate is that quarterback position.
Let me ask you this. Do they, because now they've walked back that statement, like, we're talking about how, he could be here in Denver, mostly because their accountants probably were like, hey, like there's 3 digits before the comma, that we got to worry about here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you think they figure out how to keep him there, or you think they figure out how to move on?
And if you're going to move on, who are you going to move on for? Because then, and I think a lot of that part
Stidham's their guy.
Well, okay, right. Or, and I'm asking because this is all relevant, is do they move up in the draft to try to secure their guy of the future, making Russ irrelevant?
I mean, they wouldn't really have to move a lot.
No, right? I don't think they do.
They got the 12th overall pick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not going to get, the top 3 guys, but it's a deep enough quarterback draft. They can get someone. But if they do, who wants to trade for Russ with that contract?
Well, and I just found out very quickly, and you are correct. You guys are both correct. That this gentleman asks, "What's the plan at quarterback?" All signs point to the Broncos cutting ties with Wilson after 2 seasons. If that happens, how will Sean Payton choose to replace him? Uh, they do hold the 12th pick in the draft. Here I go to find out. So I ask, what's Russell Wilson's cap hit? 35,000 or 35,400,000 is the cap hit, but he's got dead cap value of $85 million.
Yeah, it's gonna cost them to let him go.
Yeah,
it ain't gonna be cheap.
No, that's the
But
thing. Is it almost renders your team useless to move on from him. That's why I said it had to be the accountants going, "Hey, you know what? Maybe he should stay," because otherwise we have to let a lot of people go.
Well, dead cap is 85 million, but that doesn't mean that he has to, because that would go over the entire length of the contract still, even if he was to go. So it would only be $35 million, $35.4 million for the year.
I got you.
So it's not the worst thing in the world. They just would be eating that for a couple more years, so 2 more years after that. Next, the Detroit Lions. What do you think their most burning question this year is?
Can I answer that real quick? It's got to be play call. It's got to be Dan Quinn. It's got to be Dan Campbell, and his play calling in the last quarter of that game. Because let's be honest, this team is good, and they only faltered. They're only there or not there because of the missed call by Dan Campbell. Not because
I don't think so. I think that there's.
I know you don't got to think so, because if it was, it'd be a weird show.
Well, yeah,
but you don't go for the field goal. Why don't you go for the field goal?
He stayed true to what it is he was. I wasn't mad at that at all. For me, I think the secondary is a question mark a little bit, because you can throw the ball on that defense. So I would look a little bit at that secondary as far as getting that to be a little bit better.
All right. Actually, and this writer says, how much will it cost to extend Jared Goff? Right now, his deal expires after this next year. Yep. He's making $33.5 million this year. Daniel Jones is making $40 million this year. Just to
he's going to set the market if he gets the extension per year. Per year, he'll set the market. That's the way it always goes. When you make it that far in the playoffs, you're gonna. I don't
think Goff resets the market, man.
I know you say that. But you also didn't think that Deshaun Watson was getting a 100% fully guaranteed contract too. So let's strength on that.
It was the only way the Browns were going to make that happen, because he had already come out saying, "I'm not going to the Browns." It was the only way they could be like, "Hey,
beautiful bottle of Cristal sent to my house per you when that shit happened." Seriously, I promise you, watch it.
With your takes, I'm thinking you want a bag of Crystal. Not, I think you're just saying it wrong.
I said Cristal. The way it's supposed to be said is Cristal.
Yeah, but you don't even drink. You don't even drink. But you don't even drink.
I don't, but still. I don't have to drink it to display it with the sign that says, "Bo was wrong." That shit will be on my mantle right next to when I get the one from Bags that says he was wrong. I'll never get that one, but I'm going to always keep a space there for it.
Because I'm never wrong.
Well, that's a subject for debate. I'm really more or less along your stubbornness to never send it.
Pretty sure this show isn't that long.
No, it's not.
So next team is the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going to be very quick with this one because it's the same exact question. How much will it take to extend Jordan Love?
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why because this writer wrote about it, and it's like literally the same exact question.
All right, you got the answer. Can I give a super 2-second answer? Yep. Depending on what Goff gets, up it up a little bit, and that's what Jordan's going to get, and vice versa. Whoever sells that their contract first, the other one's going to base it off of that one and go a little higher.
That's correct, because they both, except the salary this year for Jordan Love is at 10.5 million, that rather than 33.5 million. And ultimately, the other quarterback that I could think of that's probably going to make a little bit more money this year, going into this year, this upcoming year, is one Mr. Irrelevant. Just my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna. If I was his agent, I'd say, hey, listen, I would expect right now we start talking about this now, because he's not coming into camp until we get some more money, and I don't care. That's what I would say.
Hey, once you make it to the Super Bowl, that's a feather in your cap that requires you to have that conversation.
Yeah, especially since
that's a good business, Bubba.
I gotta support my family. That would be the first thing I gotta say. Gotta support my family, and $700,000 just isn't a lot of money. When
in the background of that conversation, I got the Jeffersons moving on up.
Well, not only that, but think about that. He does live in California, so that 700,000 is really only about 218.
Pretty much after you pay your taxes.
Well,
that's what I'm talking about. So.
Well, and then once you go and you pay your agent and everything else that goes along with it, I mean, you're not making a ton of money.
Hey,
that's what I'm talking. He's probably only making about $200,000 a year.
I promise you, Jordan. I promise you, Brock Purdy's clipping coupons, but he's going to give the scissors up on signing day and say, you know what, I'm done clipping. Time to get paid. Time to get paid, baby.
I'm surprised that they didn't talk about that fact that he's still living with his mom. You know what I mean? Like,
I would do too.
Cutlets over there in New York.
Yeah,
Tommy Cutlets. So, anyways, next team on the list is the one team that the bandwagon did not stop at for Mr. J, the Houston Texans.
Yeah, you know what? With the Texans, I really like this team, man. I really do. I mean, they have a lot of things really going well for them. And if there was one spot I would say for those guys to add on to, it would be probably on the defensive side of the ball. I would like to see them get a complimentary in route, or even if you want to play, if the best available is at the linebacker spot, I'm even okay there too. But I would like to add them another key piece to complement Will Anderson on that defense. And I think we're looking pretty good because that offense is set. You got your tight end, your wide receivers. You know, if they want to go for a running back, maybe, but I think you're okay at the running back spot. Defense is where I think we add on. And I think D'Amico, being a defensive guy, I think that's what he's thinking.
Yeah, I'm actually with you there. I'd like to see their defense get a little bit better. And because, I mean, the offense has been able to move the ball, put up points. So, yeah, if that defense can get a little bit better, absolutely.
Well, and you guys aren't far off because this guy's talking about re-signing their biggest free agent, Jonathan Greenard, 12 and a half sacks at 26 years old.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about adding a piece, there is somebody in Philadelphia right now who was given permission to request a trade.
Yep.
So it wouldn't surprise me if that was one of the destinations. So, and I thought about like where would be a spot that could actually give some capital here. It wouldn't be the biggest. That wouldn't be the biggest deal for them to even giving up a first round pick for Reddick, which I don't think he would get. But because it's a later first round pick. It's very possible that could be the case, like giving up that first round pick to have another 12 sack guy coming in would be a good fit for that spot.
Yep.
Then
that's interesting. That's interesting. And again, you can also address their defense in the draft too. I mean, depending on, I don't know exactly where the Texans fall, but
they're at 23.
At 23? Okay, because you got to, this is what I'm thinking. You got to figure the first 15 selections got to be quarterback, probably offensive line, and possibly maybe defensive line. What do you guys think?
Well, minus pick number 4 was wide receiver.
And wide receiver, excuse me, I let that out. I apologize. Wide receiver, because you got Marvin Harrison in there, you got Ozunzi in there. I mean, to say that you can't at 20, if they're picking at 23, to think that you can't get a really good defensive piece at 23 would be ludicrous. So, do you have to give up so much money if they don't want to in free agency when you could probably get a really good blue chip guy? Right there at 23, that solidifies that need, and you keep your cap low.
I didn't say it would be a first-round pick this year.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Like I would look at maybe looking at the draft at your position to get that defensive need before I go to trade away assets.
No, so I could see it being a first round the following year, and maybe you do both. You get Reddick, and then you still draft a guy.
Right.
And
that's where I thought. I thought you give a 4th round pick this year and a 1st round pick next year.
Sure.
And you try to build off of that. So it's almost like this is like that's like an NBA style trade where you are betting on the fact that you're going to be better this year than you were last year, so that you're trying to give them a worse pick. So it's like, hey, we're going to do it's almost like a top 20 protected pick or top 23 protected pick. Because we got the 23rd pick, we're not going to give it up this year. We figure we're going to give you pick 27 or 26 next year.
And here's the thing. Let me ask you guys this too. And this is what I think about when I look at futuristic things. The one thing I learned about this year specifically with the Texans was they got 3 wide receivers that in their own rights could be wide receiver ones.
No, they got a ton of talent.
Like, what I'm saying is, so what I'm saying is this: they've all proven that they can be 1,000-yard plus receivers, given the opportunity. So I'm wondering, when their contracts come up, what are they going to command? And that's why I'm wondering, when we're looking at the Reddick situation, it's going to have to be with those guys in mind. Like, don't give up the whole world for this guy. Give up what you think is appropriate, but not so much so that you can't afford when these guys come up for contract that's just going to put you into a Dallas Cowboy $19 million above the cap situation. That's I'm sure they're looking at all of that, right?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, at the same time, your windows to actually win are generally small, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So you want to utilize these guys while they're on their rookie deals. So if you give up something to get a veteran presence in there, that's a 12 plus sack a year type of defensive player, you still draft a guy in the 1st round to help that defense out. You have the dynamic, offensive play that they had this last year. You could probably make a real splash in this, in postseason play, and you don't have to worry about these contracts for the most part for another 3 years or so. So, and then at that point, Reddick's probably not still on the roster anyway. I mean, there's things that,
No, I understand what you're saying. So maybe they give this guy a 2-year deal so that by the time these wide receivers come up for contract, his deal would have already been off the books. And I get that.
They probably would give him like a 2-year or maybe a 3-year with an option or something. I mean,
and if that's the case, then I think that's totally worth doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you can shore up that defense, the offense did enough to win a lot of games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I don't think you need all the talent. I think you just need the right coaching and the right guy and the right chemistry on your team, and you can make it work. I mean, the Chiefs don't have exactly all of the top guys, right? McDuffie was good. Jones was good. But, they make it work within that team because they buy into the concept of the team. And so rather than just spending money to spend money, as long as you have and I think D'Amico's doing that. I think Dan Campbell is doing that. They're the culture that they're cultivating.
I don't think chemistry was an issue. I mean, they balled out.
No, I'm just saying, like, chemistry sometimes can be, it's worth the weight in gold in terms of just trying to bring in all the top-notch talent, right? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, we're talking about one dude. Like, we're not revamping the team. We're bringing in one defensive guy. So as long as he's not a problem, I think he'll be fine.
I don't like you, Bo.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Too much logic in that? All right. My bad.
No, I just haven't got my free quesadilla or wings from you yet. I thought all this hyped up stuff. I'm sorry. Next team, please. I apologize for Bo.
Right. Yeah, because you guys talking too much about Houston for somebody who's not on that bandwagon.
Who's gonna throw that in there? But it's all good. I love you.
Next team on the list, Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, that's a good team. That's a good team to talk about.
So this guy, I'm going to say what this guy's is because we'll never get this one. Can they keep Michael Pittman Jr.?
You're right. I wouldn't have went there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone there either. Is he? So I'm assuming because that's a question, that means he's up for contract.
He is, and he had his best season. He had 109 receptions with 1152 yards, all from Minshew. A lot from Minshew, or most of this Minshew.
Well, yeah, AR was hurt most of the time, so
right. And they were talking about possibly putting the franchise tag on this guy.
That never makes guys happy, that's for sure. They do have the 15th overall pick, so I mean, they could do some stuff.
Because that's really the thing. They're thinking that their quarterback is going to be their quarterback, and that's going to elevate them to the playoffs.
Sure. I do think they need a little bit better offensive line play, though. So, I mean, you do franchise tag him, but there are some good, I don't know. Yeah.
Here's the deal. I look at 1152 is not bad. I would probably look at Ayuk and what he did in terms of yards per catch, and then maybe use that as a barometer because I think he was around 1,400 and some change and total yardage. And I know him being at 1,100. And then I would say, okay, look, here's Ayuk at 14 something. You're like down here at 11 something. I'm a franchise tag you this year. Let's see what you do under Anthony Richards a full season, hopefully healthy Anthony Richards. And then we can revisit it next year. And while we're doing that, we're going to address these other needs to hopefully get to a Super Bowl. And I think you're right. I think that offensive line has got to be where you put some of that money specifically. And I do still think they need another wideout to complement Pittman Jr. It doesn't have to be and again, this could be addressed in the second round, but you need to get somebody to complement Pittman Jr. to take some of the pressure off of him. And I also think some of that defense still needs to be relooked. I know you got Jonathan Taylor under contract, so you don't have to worry about your running back. But still, some of that defense needs to be looked at, and the offensive line has got to be paramount. And everything after that, you can look at another round.
Okay, all of which I agree there. Because if they had a better offensive line, maybe AR would not have gotten hurt.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And he was actually having a really good season up until the point where he got hurt. So
yeah, I mean, the problem was he got hurt multiple times this year. And I mean, a lot of that is because the pressure came in. He tried to play, some hero ball and run, and then ultimately gets hurt. So he needs that protection.
Yeah.
Correct. Next team on the list, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Can you get an entire defense with one pick? Like
that's what I was thinking, but I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, I mean they need some stuff.
And their biggest guy is got to get re-signed. Josh Allen, as funny as that sounds.
They do have to sign him.
Yeah, he's at 17.5 sacks this year, and they need to sign him or else he's going to walk too.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to resign him. I think they do resign him. The point is what does their cap room look like after they sign him? Or even what is it? Because I don't have that number, but what is their cap room before they signed him?
I don't know that answer.
And I don't either, but I think that's something that's got to be in consideration. You've got to sign Josh Allen. Let's just get that out of the way. That's your best guy. Yeah. You're going to give him the Quan, and then you're going because look, what you get in him. You don't know what you get in the draft. You know whatever, but you know what you got in him. So you got to build everything around that guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude's a monster. You have to keep him on your roster.
Yes, I agree. So then you worried about Ridley, but I don't know if Ridley's your guy. I don't know that he's that big of a deal.
Calvin Ridley. I think there's other ways you can go. Like if you could keep him, cool. If you can't, there's other options.
The one thing I love about Calvin Ridley is like last year he didn't do a whole hell of a lot. And that was his first year back, so we're not expecting that. So that what I'm saying is in Jacksonville's favor, I don't think you have to give. I don't think he commands a lot. I think you get him on another one. If he's up for contract, then you put him on a 1-year deal. and let him earn, well, maybe some bonus incentives and let him earn the next contract. I don't think you got to give him the Quan. Why would you?
Because he actually is a good wide receiver and
Well,
he's there.
He is. No, he's a great receiver.
When he's not gambling.
What is it? Well, again, and that's the thing, right? No, I'm glad you said that, but that's why I think you give a prove it and earn it deal. You say, look, I'm gonna give you 1 year, X amount. Let's grow the X amount for that 1 year, and then let me see you under 1 more year because you haven't done a whole lot for our team coming off of that issue that you had. So let me see 1 really productive year out of you, and then I'm gonna give you the damn Quan on the next contract. I mean, otherwise, I think you let him go because
loves that movie. He loves that movie.
Right? I mean, I feel like
I'm sorry.
Jay, you complete me. You complete me, Jay.
I feel like
never wanted to say this about Bags, but opposites do attract, Bags.
It feels really forced in there. I don't know.
Let me say it again. Opposites do attract. So I kind of love you. Not as much as so, but I love you.
But also, in the process of this, they also have to re-sign Trevor Lawrence.
Yes, they do.
Figure out about him too. So my truth of the matter is that he's obviously got 1 more season left before he needs to get re-signed. If I am the general manager, I'd consider giving Josh Allen the franchise tag, doing Ridley, and working on Trevor Lawrence's extension this year because that's going to be the bigger extension of the two. And then, Ridley, I'd almost let him slide.
Yeah.
Like you just figure out like, hey, do you want to stay? I'll offer you a contract that would be worthwhile. If you decide that this is not going to cover your gambling debts, then at that point you have to make those decisions.
Right, because I don't think 1 year removed from the suspension, you go out and give him the lucrative contract, especially since his production wasn't there. I think you got to give it time. You don't just go all in on a guy that's suspect.
No, and that's why I said if you could sign him, cool, but that's not a requirement. You got other things.
And let me ask you this, guys. What other team out? Well, I don't want to say because I'm sure there is a team out there, but how many other teams out there, based on his last year's production and his gambling issues, is going to go out there and just give him the contract you think he's looking for?
Well, I don't foresee
Cleveland and Atlanta.
Yeah, and I don't see him getting nailed for gambling again or anything. I don't foresee that being an issue. It's not like he was Josh Gordon where he just couldn't not smoke, right? Like I think this was one where he did it, got nailed for it. He seems like he probably would have learned something from this, or at least you'd like to think so. But yeah, I could see Atlanta.
One thing about the human psyche, nothing is ever a guarantee.
No, definitely not.
Because you don't know how deep that gambling addiction goes.
Yep.
And so, okey-doke. Next on the list, our Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs.
Receiver.
Yes. Well, I don't know, man. Reed did a good job. Is that really the guy you think? Reed did it. I mean, Rice. I'm sorry, Rashid Rice. I think did a good job. I'm going defense. I'm gonna go the other route with that. I think defense.
They had their best defense area. They had their best defense since Mahomes has been there. That defense is solid.
I don't know if it was totally as solid as you thought it was because they were looking pretty rough toward the end.
I disagree. I disagree with what you're saying completely there, Jay. I agree. It is the defense. It is the defense. But Snead and Jones are both free agents.
Yeah.
And that's a big one.
Yeah.
It's you got Patrick Mahomes on the other side, so you don't worry about the receivers. You got Pat. That's.
So why are you disagreeing with me then?
Well, no, I disagree with what you were saying in terms of
the premise of their defense being bad.
No.
Right.
No, their defense was not bad. I'm saying that it needs to be looked at.
No, I think that they had a top 5 defense. They had a top 5 defense. This was the year that defense won championship. That's
I would
absolutely
like
what
to see a little bit more of the edge rushing. I guess that's where I was coming from. I wanted to see more of the edge rushing from Kansas City and not so much just the Chris Jones coming up the middle and putting the pressure. I want to see a little bit more of that edge rushing. That's where I was coming from. I like the McDuffie. I like the secondary core of this group. I want to see just a little bit more from that front seven. That's all.
That'd be
that's
great.
because you could run on them.
A little bit, yes, you could. Not enough to win a Super Bowl, but you could run on them.
Well, you do have to try and run also. Like, you can't just be like, you know what, it's the third quarter. We're just not going to do that anymore.
Well, again, that goes, and that's a whole other. If we got to San Francisco, that'd be a whole other conversation because I'm like, I don't think you're using McCaffrey enough in the run game. But see here or there,
they are not going to win 3 in a row. They're not going to win 3 in a row. They're going to lose to the Eagles next year. Jason Kelce is going to retire as Super Bowl champion. Travis Kelce is going to retire with a baby with Taylor Swift.
I gotta tell you, you know what? I think the Chiefs can do a 3-peat. I do. If they get those two guys you just mentioned under contract, you can't tell me one bit that these guys don't have the.
They're not going to be able to afford both. They are not going to be able to afford both. And I understand.
I would say just get Jones under contract. Out of the two, get Jones under contract. Worry about the other guy in the draft or wherever you need to. But I think this team can repeat. I totally think they can repeat.
Well, it's possible, but I am going to say no.
I should say repeat. I should say three-peat. Repeat. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't foresee them. I don't foresee them three-peating.
It's okay. Everybody said the same shit last year, including even me. But I did pick them to win the Super Bowl. I want to say that. But I will tell you, in transparency, at the beginning of the season, I didn't see it. It wasn't until after the Baltimore game that I said, you know what?
Wasn't until after the confetti fell. I got you.
You know what? Hey, no, seriously though, after that Baltimore game, I said, you know what? This team can do it. I think they had the right culture in this group and experience in this group enough that they can do it. And I think they proved it time and time again. Every time we say some shit like that, we wind up eating a good helping dose of humble pie. And the both of you ate humble pie at the Super Bowl. But you know who didn't? This guy.
What are you talking about? I picked the Chiefs.
Did you? I thought you picked the 49ers.
I did not.
Then I retract my last statement that we got an Oreo effect. And guess who's the cream filling?
Something wrong with you, man.
So I'm going to stop right there. We'll stop. The next team is the Las Vegas Raiders, so we're gonna stop there. We'll finish this up tomorrow. But that gives us a few minutes to talk about one of the things that I did want to mention. I actually have written down on my notes of things to talk about because I do prepare just that much, just a little bit. My question for you. I have a trivia question for the both of you. Throughout the 58 Super Bowls, how many quarterbacks have won?
Oh, fuck, 58. Damn, now we gotta start going into multiple.
You don't have to. I mean, you guys could take just an educated guess. You know what I mean? You don't have to go crazy.
Okay. So I'm gonna say Aiken got 3. I'm gonna say Bradshaw got 4. I'm
gonna go like what, 20, 22 maybe.
58. I'm gonna say I know this is the time I got to make this quick, so I'm going to say an educated guess around 31, 32. So I'm going to say 31.
Actually, it's kind of right in between you, although you would be closer. Jay, it's 27. 27 quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl. If somebody brought that to my attention, actually a Jacksonville Jaguars fan brought it up. And as we were figuring out that since the year 2000, there has only been like 8 quarterbacks to have won.
Yeah.
Is that insane or what?
It kind of is.
Yeah, because you got it. Both Mannings, they equal 4. You have Ben Roethlisberger, he won 2. You have Mahomes with 3. You have Brady with 7.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you have Aikman with 3.
Aikman was not in the year 2000. So
shit, my bad. You're right. I'm bro, you could just die. Damn it. So natural causes.
Hey, I was just laughing. I didn't swing
You
at that
die of natural
softball,
causes.
because I could have put that out in the stands, but I just let that one roll by. I just laughed.
No, Bo, because everything else in your life you lack
Exactly.
So
you know what? And you know what, Pags? I'm not even
Coming
mad that you
soon
did
on
that. I'm still
VHS.
waiting on that take because I still have the original VCR. Let's go.
So I actually, the reason why I even have that tape out here is because I borrowed somebody's VCR. I think that's that tape that I keep showing is my skydiving when I went skydiving, and I want to actually record it in a real sense. So, because I
That's pretty
actually
cool.
went.
Well, damn, you've been that tells you how long ago it's been since you went skydiving. Then probably had a full head of hair instead of the mohawk.
Yes, I did. In fact, somebody posted a picture yesterday. They wanted me to show my Navy picture, and they showed me a picture of me from when I was in the Navy to yesterday when I was all painted up in Flyers gear, and it was a very unique difference,
Yeah, no
to
doubt.
say the least.
Maybe that's something that you wouldn't mind sharing with the viewers, because I honestly would be curious to see your Navy photo. To be honest with you, so maybe that's something
I'll
we get
show
for
that.
later show.
I will show that tomorrow. Yeah, we will.
Big fans. Jay is out looking out for you. I know you all want to. If I want to see it, I know you want to see it.
So I will show. I don't have many Navy pictures, but I do have my one from boot camp, and things like that. So, but yeah, I was very young then. I went into boot camp at 17 years old.
I went at 19.
So I had my 18th birthday in boot camp. But yes, 27 total Super Bowl winners.
That's interesting. It's just that it's so few because that's like half. Like half the Super Bowls were repeats.
Well, and even when you think back to
more than
early
one.
Super Bowls, a lot of them went back to back with guys.
And think about just from that number of 27, how many starting quarterbacks there have been from that time.
Just this year, because everybody that got hurt.
No, you're right. There's been a lot.
There were more starting quarterbacks this year than there have been Super Bowls.
So I'm going to give you the list because I actually took a picture of this. And I was like, okay, this is something really good to talk about here, because obviously you have Tom Brady with 7, Bradshaw and Montana with 4 each. Aikman had 3. Now Patrick Mahomes also has 3 as well. John, here's all the ones with 2. John Elway, Bob Greasy, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Jim Plunkett, Ben Roethlisberger, Bart Starr, Roger Staubach.
Yeah.
Here are all the ones. Joe Namath, Len Dawson, Johnny Unitas, Ken Stabler, Joe Theismann, Jim McMahon, Phil Simms, Doug Williams, Jeff Hostetler, Mark Rippon, Steve Young, Brett Favre, Kurt Warner, Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles, Matthew Stafford.
Let me ask you a question. On all the ones that you named that have one Super Bowl to their name, why is it that it's Joe Namath's name? Because he only has one like everybody else, but his name is kind of still somewhat legendary in the NFL sports world. It's weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it has that mystique to his name.
Well, here's the reason. 1, he called his shot. 2, he was the first one to win from the AFC.
Okay, that's a good point. And he did have that Joe Flair with the mink coats and stuff.
If he lost that Super Bowl, it was possible that the AFC was not going to merge. Because it took that win for them to actually do the merger and make it under one NFL.
And that's a cool history moment, by the way, on this show. You got that cool history. Because quite honestly, I didn't know that. I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's just the way it was. So and then of course the following year was Kansas City,
Right.
and their iconic coach. I just remember Kansas City rolled over them like it was like a crush of Kansas City. Think about this though, you know, back in the day, how many rounds were there in the draft? How about this? How many rounds were in the 1980 NFL draft?
Let's see. That had like 8, didn't it?
Say one more time that question, please.
It was like 8 or 10 rounds, something like that. I
You're
thought
way
it was,
off.
I thought it was longer than the draft is today.
It is longer. So in 1980, it was 12 rounds, but I think that
12
they
rounds.
even goes back. Let's go 70. How many rounds were there?
But also, the draft has grown over obviously the decades then because more
It
people
shrank.
are now in it.
It shrank.
Right.
It shrank back down.
It's shrank to 7 now, and 7 is all they're going to have from here on out. But in 1970, there was 17 rounds.
Ooh, wow.
So
that's crazy.
And in 1960, 20 rounds. But there was only 240 selections. So you had 20 rounds of, 12 teams picking.
Still, that seems like a lot. I don't know.
It is a lot. It is a lot. So, but anyways, so there you go. That was my trivia question for the day. Like I said, 27 quarterbacks have only, out of the 58, potential quarterbacks. So finding that quarterback has to be the most paramount of situations for teams. It absolutely has to be. You're going to need the quarterback. It's worth every bit of 3 first-round picks. So, Chicago.
If you think it's your guy.
Chicago, you should think about that. I mean, everybody in the top 5, really, because ultimately, if you don't think your quarterback, if you think you got all your eggs in the one basket for your one quarterback and you don't like the other quarterbacks, trade back and wait for the next year.
Yep.
Because like I said, it's the proof is in this pudding now. Absolutely in this pudding. It was just it surprised me when I saw this. I was like, wow, this is. I counted them. Like I was literally like, how many are there all day, and how many were in just from the year 2000? Because you think of since 2000, it's really small because you've got Brady with 7 and Mahomes with 3, and both Mannings and Roethlisberger take up another 6 at 16 out of the 23 years.
Yeah.
24 years, actually. So that's only 8 quarterbacks left.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? The Eagles have one of those quarterbacks. The Seahawks have one of those quarterbacks.
It's true. I'll give you that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and Fox
$5
broadcasting
might get you a case of quesadillas at the local grocery mart.
Hey, but you know what? It was Romo's 3rd Super Bowl.
It was.
Hey, look, man. Hey, look, I'm just glad Romo made it to the Super Bowl. Even if he had to do it in the broadcasting booth, it's all good. Go, Romo.
There you go.
You still.
That being said, hey, we have come to the end of our show. It's the end of our 2 hours. Again, everybody, thank you very much for hanging with us all day today. We will be back tomorrow. Well, we're going to finish from the Las Vegas Raiders on down and answer what everybody's burning question is, and maybe even talk about other sports because there is other things going on in the sports world. We just don't talk about it very much. So everybody, thank you very much, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.